Hello and welcome to yet another Manfred Mentors episode. I didn't think I'm going to be doing it one that quickly, but things came together really quickly in the afternoon today. So I have to tell you all about this. And that is a really cool thing. I'm going to show you right here. As you can see, if we go to the Trino Gateway release note section, Trino Gateway 17 is out. Yay! Which is really awesome. I'll tell you all about it, new features and how we got there and what it took. And then we'll update the release notes as well. Of course, if you appreciate my efforts, please do donate on my GitHub profile. But let's dive right in. So let me change this around so you can see a bit better. And let's go back to our history. So when did this start? So if you look at the release notes here in September, we cut Trino Gateway 16 successfully. And at that stage, we were hoping to cut a release once a month because, well, from the release in March to September, we all thought it took too long and we should cut more regularly to have better updates and just get fixes out to our users quicker. Well, that didn't turn out as we wanted to. So, that's how it happens sometimes in the world of open source software where it's all volunteer based and stuff. But essentially, we ran into a bunch of obstacles and we got the release notes out now. So Trino Gateway 17, as you see here from my current tasks on my contributions tracker, I started working on this ages ago. I don't even know. There it is, managed the release notes in October. I started basically shortly after. And then we got right into it. So let's look at the release first. What's in it? There is a whole bunch of new pull requests queued up as well to join us after this release, which is going to unblock a whole bunch of changes. So hopefully we can cut the release later, now soon after, because as you'll see, the release notes process, the release process overall improved quite a bit. But what you can see here in our release 17, we have the jar available, we have the Docker container available, tarball and zip archive from the source code, and the Helm chart is also updated. Main changes, we changed to the UBI 10 micro as a base Docker image. The biggest change for users that deployed Trino Gateway on their own, not using the Docker container, it's Java 25 now. If you're using the Docker container, it doesn't matter, the right Java is already in it. We removed that email notifier, fixed a couple of small bugs, and then very useful generally is we have this query history in the UI, and it now shows not just the name of a query, which arguably is kind of useless. It shows a truncated text of the query. So if you look through the history of queries, now you can see sort of at least the start of if it's show catalogs or so, obviously you see the whole query. If it's a long, complex query that you'll see enough in the list, and then you can click on it and see the details in the query history list. And then obviously you see the whole text there. That was already the case, but now you can sort of on the list already tell sort of a bit better what's going on. We also fixed an incorrect display of 0 queries in the distribution chart, and we moved up to Node.js version 24. So we're up to date on that. If you look at the available milestone, also you see here, these are the binaries. In the release notes, we also have these links to the milestone, which is our GitHub changes. These shows you all the changes that got in, and you see here it's 4 pages worth of changes. So there's actually a lot more going on in terms of changes, lots and lots of dependency bumps. Shout out to Yuya for getting the Dependabot installed and managing a lot of those updates. You can see here we got 4 pages worth of changes overall. And in the new release process now, also if you go to code and go to tags, to releases, you see Trino Gateway 17 is now also as a new thing here, and you see there's a whole bunch of change, the list of actual changes is a whole lot bigger. We also have the new contributors mentioned here, which is great, and a full list of all the contributors. So you see this is truly a community effort. There's a total of 15 contributors just for this release. So if you're interested in helping out with that, let us know, and jump right into the Trino Gateway dev Slack channel on the Trino Slack. So the release is out and we have it all available. Now we're gonna jump right over, because you've seen here what the release is here, right? Like what's on the release in release notes. In order to improve the process, we did a whole lot of things. And if you look at the contributor sections in development here, there's a release process documentation that now is completely wrong. David Phillips, one of the core Trino maintainer and Trino founders, in fact, helped me get this all improved quite a lot, because he has full access to do that kind of stuff on GitHub and on the Maven Central deployment and on Docker Hub. So the process changed a lot and is quite a lot easier now. And so while we document this, I'll show you as well. Before I document it all with you, I'll show you what's kind of involved. So what we did is, if you look at the commits here also, I had a pull request out to add a release flow for a whole long time, but because I couldn't get the secrets going, we never committed that. David now did one that works completely. So there's the release. We then updated the release notes. There was a breakage in the release flow, because contrary to Trino, our core important branch for stuff is actually the main branch, not the master branch, which is the old convention from GitHub. The GitHub repository from Trino Gateway is not as old as the Trino one. And then we also added a separate release flow for the release Docker action. So the release process is a kind of multi-step process now, but each individual step is close to automated. We can't completely automate it that easily, because it depends on a lot of external factors that we can't control. So it needs to be a little bit of hand-holding, but we'll see in more detail. So we are in a really good position now to cut more releases. So these release flows here are actually contained in our .github configuration. And you see here, there's two workflows now. There is the release process and the release Docker process. There's also the normal continuous integration flow, which does the builds, the docs flow, which does the documentation publishing with every commit to master, the milestone, which just does the milestone flagging. So it shows up here, like we saw earlier on the milestones, which has all the changes for a specific release. And then the stale board also goes through and looks at all the pull requests. And if they haven't been touched and changed for, I think 3 weeks is our number now, then it gets flagged as stale, and then 3 weeks later it gets potentially closed. We can also set labels to ignore that or to reopen them and all that kind of stuff. So all of those are really good. The stale board has been really useful also in Trino itself, because pull requests get pretty stale when you don't have enough people that can help with reviewing, and you need to just close them over a while if no one is active on them. Otherwise, you just end up with a flood of them. You see here, we got 26 pull requests in Trino. Trino Gateway. In Trino, that's going to be not so sure how many there are these days, but let's have a look. Oh, there's 160. Like when we introduced the Stalebot, there were over 600, and a lot of them are old and useless. So in a much better position here. As you can see here, the issues, 2,500 issues, that's still pretty useless. I fully intend to do the Stalebot for issues as well. But if you look at the issues here, there's a whole bunch of things that we don't want to have closed. So things that are like roadmaps or good first issues or so. But then, of course, a lot of them are very old. One thing we also found is when I originally farmed this out for the pull request, even though there were only like 600 or so, GitHub Action would like time out and not work. So what you have to do to roll, like what I'm going to have to do to roll this out for issues here, I'm going to have to set a date that says only things that are older than like, I don't know, 10 years and then older than 8 years, like, and close those out, because otherwise it's not going to work. So we have to roll this out slowly so it gets to a stage where it's controllable and GitHub Action can run through the whole lot, and then we can run that regularly. So it takes a bit of time to roll that out. So, but that's a story for another day. Let's go and update how the process works for release notes on Trino Gateway. So Let's see what it says and how wrong it is. It's probably pretty wrong. So let's go to my editor. Where are we? Here we go. Visual Studio Code, release process. So this is the source code you see marked down here in the docs folder of the Trino Gateway repository. A full release process consists of a number of steps. So first, there's two things you have to do. First of all, you have to be ready for the release notes. And so that you have to create two pull requests. The first pull request is the release notes for Trino Gateway. So let's do that. Create a release notes pull request, including the following changes: new release notes in docs, update. So that's correct. See example for Trino Gateway. See the example pull request for Trino Gateway 17 for more details. I'm just going to do that because I'll show you in a second. There's a bit of stuff involved. So if you see here, this is Trino. We don't need that anymore. Here's the Trino Gateway pull request. So the way we manage this is basically whenever you're ready to start working on the release notes, you start creating a pull request and then you keep that up to date and just roll into it. Like you have this list where you don't have to do it every day, but like regularly verify what are the pull requests merged on a specific day. You verify what is necessary and then you tick, like verify that, yes, you did add that to the release notes, or you considered what's necessary for the release notes. You did do that work. And then you also verified that any necessary documentation changes are included, or you send another pull request to do that work. So in the end, you want to get to a state where all these changes are taken care of and tracked and in this pull request. So that's the first thing. So let's do that. Go back here, add that, see the example for more details. In parallel, prepare a pull request to update the Trino Gateway Helm chart in the charts repository. This is out of date because in the past, the Helm chart used to be in the Trino Gateway repository. So, well, that's no longer true. It's now in the charts repository. So let's go. If you see that, there's the charts repository. This is the Helm charts repository for both Trino and Trino Gateway. The reason that makes sense is that like a bunch of the setup for verifying and testing that comes together and is maintained in one flow. And also the maintainer of this repository, who is mostly Jan, props Jan, you're awesome, knows a lot more about this and ties this together and is pretty active on this repository, which is very, very helpful. And anyone that wants to support Jan, you go for it. Should be good. He's doing great work for the Trino community. So let's add this link here in the charts repository. Let's do that here. And then, like, if you look at this pull request that I did, let's do this again, same. I will do the same here. See the example pull request for the 1.17.0 chart. For more details. So this pull request here shows you what we do. Actually, it's not much really. You change you fix the up version to 17, obviously, because it's the 17 Trino Gateway release. Helm charts require a semantic versioning thing. So as a team, we decided we're going to do 1 point and then whatever the major version of the gateway is to use as the minor version of the chart, and then the macro version. So we can potentially also do a 1.17, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, whatever to fix things. So really you only have to try and update the app to the new version and version to the new version with 0.00 with no, that's wrong. Update the app version to the new version and version to 1.x and you see here this was different. We used to do this differently. To the new version with 1.a to the new version where x is the Trino Gateway version. And now this is also wrong. So this is the new path. And now let's say 217 and 1.17.0. All right. And then update the and update the links in and update the version table in for more details. Okay. Okay, so we got preparation done. So we got those 2 pull requests ready to go. Now organize review, approval, and merge for the release notes PR. And now here's where it gets totally different. You do no longer have to run the release notes locally. So let's go. Once, okay, after the release nodes PR is merged, kick off the release workflow to deploy the binaries to Maven Central. And now this is the first change. So now what we have is we have a workflow. That's that release workflow. So now you can go code, actions, actually. You go release. And kick off the release workflow deployer. We can do the wait until the workflow completes and until the binaries are available on Maven Central now this is going to be available here. So here you can see let's link the whole thing. A folder with a new version should be visible, and the link in the release notes to the jar must work. Okay, so that's basically it, right? So you press that button, pretty easy, and then you wait and watch. Of course, that sounds easy, but and it is once everything goes fine. But until it gets all fine, it's not so easy. But well, we got it now, so it's all good. So we press that button. You can see the flow actually. Like here, you see release doc, like release doc action. There, you see this. There's a release new version. Release new version. This is, I kicked that off earlier. So that's the flow. And you can see if you go through this in detail, there's a whole bunch of things going on. It basically does a full build with all the testing and then publishing via the Node plugin from Tamash. Thank you, Tamash, for creating that. It's crazy awesome as well. It's a good tool. Tamash is an amazing Maven developer, so shout out to him. Very nice. And then it does all that, pushes it to Maven Central. Shout out also to Brian Fox for running Maven Central with Sonatype. It's a great service to the community for everyone. And that gets it there. And then the binaries are available. So for users that use from the Trino Gateway release notes that use just this binary, they are good. But most people actually use the Helm chart or the container image. So the container images has to be next. So in our release flow, the next step is once the binaries are on Maven Central, you can kick off the release workflow for publishing the Docker, the container image to Docker Hub. I think it's Docker Hub. I forgot. Docker Hub. Oops, Docker Hub. It's a space in it. Okay. Docker Hub. So kick off the release flow workflow for publishing the container image. That's going to be our link. And that one is, no surprises, in a similar place. It's here, release Docker. And you see here, I ran that earlier today as well. And where are we? Here. With the deployment completed, push another commit to the pull request you can verify the container by pulling it down manually with. And now, so yeah, you can like basically go and pull the container down like that. Docker, oops, Docker pull. For example, with this is a shell command. So that's what would pull the container down. After pushing to the pull request in the charts repository, the build there must will also be successful since it can finally pull a container, pull the referenced container. So this pull request that I had here earlier, remember, we talked about this pull request here. When you create that pull request, let's go back here. When you create a pull request like that initially, and you say up version 17, that's fine, but it's not going to work because what it does is during the build, it tries to pull that container down. So Trino Gateway 17, which hasn't been released yet, doesn't exist yet. So it will fail until that very step. And so only then can you actually verify that whatever you did here still works. So that's especially important if during that process, other changes were done to the Helm chart, which also end up in the release notes for the Helm chart automatically. So that's something we don't have to worry about. So nothing to worry about all of this essentially, but you can only do that after. So that's another step, right? Like that's why we can't easily automate one after the other, because it's sort of like a chain of events that need to happen, and each one of them potentially fails, and then we need to manually interfere. So we could automate it all, but then A, it's even more complicated, and B, if it then fails on the way, then like untangling it is potentially even worse. So for now, this is a great improvement from what we had in the past. So I will leave it at that. So we go down here. After pushing in the chart, there will also be after pushing to the pull request in the charts repository, the build there will also be successful since it can finally pull the reference container image here. So oops. So now this is all done. So we got like that. I'm just thinking here, the 600 from this. Yeah. This message we can say here. Yeah, so this is just to say that if you look at like if this whole build is successful in Trino Gateway to release a new version, what you should end up seeing is essentially these Maven release park and Maven release plugin commits, right? Like it prepares the release and then prepares for the next one. All that really does is it creates a unique commit that changes the version to those new versions. That's all it does in the Maven POM. And then the follow-up one changes to the next one snapshot, right? Like so 18 snapshot. And that's it. And the Maven release plugin does that automatically. Now we got that gone. Close. Now this whole process about the staging repository is no longer needed because Njord does that from Tamash. The Docker script, that's also no longer necessary because David automated that into the flow as well. Yeah, so we can also say that. You can verify the container by pulling it down. You can also verify availability at Yeah. Like you can pull it down. You can also just basically look at the UI. So this is the Trino, this is the Docker Hub user interface. If you want to see that, that's the pull request there. Blah blah blah. 17. You can go tags. Come on, tags. And you see here, there's the 3 new ones: latest tag and 17 tag. Do use the 17 tag, by the way, because latest is like less ideal. Interesting enough, this is using, oh, okay, yeah. So the Docker publishing is by a specific user, is tied to a user, but that's fine. It's automated anyway in our thing here. So last but not least, verify. Once the PR in the charts repository results in a successful build, request review and approval, and merge the PR to publish the Helm chart. That's it. And then announce the release on Trino Slack and basically be happy that you got another release out. And you see, this is a lot less hassle now than it was before. Because now it's just pressing buttons and watching in the background. I mean, it was kind of the same before in the sense that you had to just do it locally, and so you had to have your environment set up properly, and you had to be a person that has full access to all that infrastructure, which was just Martin, but also Dane or David. That's no longer the case now. Every Trino Gateway maintainer can theoretically run this for the foreseeable future. That's going to be me running that. And with that, I can say that, where am I here? All done, recorded, Manfred Mentors 12 with demo and more. Also send pull request to update the process docs. So again, remember, you can help me here by supporting me on GitHub sponsors. This is my work here that I do on my weekends here and there, or in the nights, Git diff, and hopefully all the companies using Trino Gateway enjoying that, and ideally they'll also support me a bit. This is the pull request. You see there's a few mess ups still, so let's get this finished. Where's my editor? Don't like trailing spaces and don't like long lines. So this one needs to be wrapped. 17. This pushes it to Maven Central. There's no longer central staging. And see the example pull because this is still too long. Just looking here. Git. I don't even know if I even created a branch. No, bad Manfred. Git checkout branch rn docs. Git commit. Update release process docs. Git push. And create that pull request. Oops. Now using the new process with mostly driven by GitHub workflows. Don't really need to add more details here. The rest is kind of in the content. And I'm going to just ask David to review this if he has time. If not, I'm going to ask some of the other maintainers. Just a quick glance here. Doesn't look too terrible. Let's call this a day. Take that pull request, throw it into my tracking so I don't forget. I have to dig out that issue again. Current tasks. 17. Cool. All right, that's it. That's all I'm going to show you today. Been a while already anyway, that's okay. Thanks if you are still here for paying attention to me. Hopefully that teaches you something. This is what we're going to do with our releases going forward. Support my efforts on my GitHub account, and I'll see you at the next developer sync or contributor call or out there on the internet. My next steps are to publish this all on Slack and LinkedIn, and then I'm gonna call it a day for today. Thank you, everyone. Now let me finish this stream. See you next time.